Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. How are you doing today? My name is William Honolulu Jr., and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the host of the Black USA News morning show. Today is the 15th day of March 2022. Happy 15th day of Women's History Month. Big shout out to the super producer, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan. Yesterday's show, man, listen, if you all missed it, you all missed a great thing. We had two young entrepreneurs. One of them has been in the game for a while. She's 8 years old, has been running her business for 2 years. The other one was 6 years old, and she's been running hers for 2 or 3. Either way, most of their lives they've been in business and they haven't hit the 3rd grade yet. It was an amazing opportunity, and a big shout out to Tasmir Gathers because she's the pitch queen and she brought them to the table. It's so cool because we're looking at actually giving them shows on Black USA News. You know, when we see, not trying to overwhelm anybody, but like when we see talent, we want to make sure that we highlight it and let them know that this is a platform that they could use and that they can grow to become whoever it is that they choose to be. It was a great thing. It was a great time. If you didn't see it, please go ahead and catch that. It was phenomenal. So Zaria's from Zaria's Closet and Faith from Faith's Showplace. It was an amazing way to just kind of step into this next part of the month of Black women, to see these young girls following their dreams and having the support of their whole village. It was evident that they were loved and cared for and supported in a way that a lot of our youth don't get an opportunity to experience. And so I was big shout out to their parents and their whole tribe for holding them down. Whew, it was great. God, it was so amazing. I'm excited for the next time to talk to them. We're going to continue with our month of Black women, and today I have a returning guest. Before, she was coming to tell us about her business, about her engagement with the community, but now we get an opportunity to talk to her about her, to have her share with us her story, her journey. Alma Brown Sanahara, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but you know, I got a whole American linguistic thing going on, so you know, more ethnic names. That wasn't what they taught me in public school, so I'm hoping I got it right. But she gonna hook me up either way, keeping me on the straight and narrow, you know, because I need that. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I need that. But for those of you all who might be new, welcome. And you might not really know what our month of Black women are. So let me play our promo clip from it. But it really is just a love letter to my goddaughters.
Dear Shanae and Simone, as you move through life as Black women, you will have a very unique experience. In many cases, you will be asked or expected to serve in roles that weren't clearly explained, nor did you really agree to. Over the course of my life, I have met some amazing women who have navigated some of the spaces that you will encounter. I want my village to share with you their stories of trials and successes to help provide a foundation to understand your power to choose the woman that you will become and the strength that you can find in your sisters. This series of shows is my gift to you. The women you will hear from are phenomenal. They come from different backgrounds and have chosen different paths for their lives. Each represents a facet of the Black woman experience. Some of the stories may not align with your journey directly, But those stories are even more important. By listening closely, you can learn about uncommon experiences and find ways to support your sisters along your shared journey. I love you all so much, and I hope to see you soon.
So that is the morning show's Month of Black Women. And we're going to continue it on. Sanahara Ama Brown. Hey! Now, okay, did I chop it up or did I do a good enough job? I can hear you. You're mute. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Trying to be all proper, and I'm on
There
mute.
you,
There we
there you
are.
go. I can hear you. What'd you say?
Okay. Do you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thanks. No, you did well with it. It's got to get used to rolling off the tongue.
Right,
Sana
yeah.
come off the tongue often.
Like I said, that wasn't part of the lessons in public school. They weren't trying to bring us in. For many of our listeners or many of our audience members, they may be familiar with you from your last appearance in the show, or if they're in the greater Baltimore, or hell, if they're national, they might have heard of you between your singing, your advocacy, your healing work, and all of that. But for those who may be new and don't really know you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Mm. So wonderful to have the opportunity to put yourself in your own words, right? So
Yes.
I am a singer-songwriter, vocalist. Um, I also do what we call sound healing as a metaphysician. I am a mama of two beautiful young beings who are growing quickly and faster than I was expecting it to go. But in some ways, I look forward to the freedom. Yeah, we'll look at that as it shows up. I'm also a holistic nurse. I've been a nurse now for over 15 years, and it's been a journey to recognize and kind of bring all of myself together with background in psychology, sociology. Those are my first degrees, and so I bring all of that into my nursing. I practice a lot of different alternative healing modalities, from Reiki, our energy, what we call vibrational healing. Um, Also, I tend to have a bit of well, I guess they would call it mother wit. That kind of I tell people I'm developing my grandma sense, where you kind of know stuff ahead of time. You can see it
Right.
coming down the road around the corner, like mm-hmm. So I'm developing that, but mostly, I'm a lover of house music. I dance. I'm a lover of good food. I cook. For the most part, though, I'm another human hoping and praying that we find our way through this in a powerful way.
Oh, awesome. I love just listening to hear you talk sometimes. It's just uplifting. So we're going to start this off the way we've started all of these off. Jeff Bezos sends a rocket up into outer space, and an alien is driving by our solar, like, hey, what are they doing over there on Earth? And they swing by, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of different people and different types of people on the planet. And they pull you aside and say, you seem to be one of these black women. We have no reference point. So describe to us what it's like to be a black woman.
So exciting to describe what it's like to be a black woman. Imagine the essence of the earth, the deep dark of the earth. That kind of, you have to get in there, but it's fertile. It has everything that you need for everything that you could ever have can be grown from this particular soil. So black women are like this soil filled with all kinds of things from the beginning. It's almost, I'm gonna say, like the essence of universe. That would be we, and it's how we've come to be in this particular earth dimension. So with earth, we look a little different because we've been through a few things. In some ways, we've kind of forgotten some aspects of our power, but we've always had someone, some black woman, finding a way through, finding a way to help remind us of who we are. So we house song and we house rhythm, we house sweetness and we house spice. If you don't know what sweet and spice are, we will show you. You will know what sweet and spice are if you spend time with us. But for the most part, we house the soul of the world. You want to know who people are, we have a bit of the soul of the world inside of us. Um, and we are so happy to have you here. And it would be wonderful to learn about you. And maybe, do you like to eat? We can feed you. We can feed you.
Yeah, I don't. I absolutely know that the end of that is going to be the way it's going to go down. No matter which black women they pull to the table, well, which ones I know they pull to the table, because that, to your point, black women feed, black women care, black women support. But one of the things that I've noticed, and even in myself, as much as I'd like to believe that I'm evolving and whatever, I recognize that I take from black women, and even my offer is insufficient. Not for them, but for what they have poured into me, in many cases. And so when you talk about the soul and kind of the essence of all of our humanity, and especially that part where you talked about how black women are responsible for helping us remember some of the things that we've forgotten, it seems like part of the definition of being a black woman always comes with that responsibility of caring for. How is that just me being very malely sensitive to stuff like this, or is that an actual thing that you experience as a black woman?
I will say that yes and no, right? And I say yes and no because I love the power to choose that many of our younger sisters are embracing in terms of their choice and holding of their power to be and bring forth how they want to. However, um, there's still a strong contingent of us who carry a bit of response, almost too responsible, where we don't include we. What did I say? You have to include me in the we of the self care work. Um, and so it becomes an idea around worthiness sometimes too. I think sometimes we do things to show our worth, to show our value. When we are born valuable, we're born worthy. So I think that I am looking forward to continuing to explore what it means to enjoy the rights that come with the responsibility. Enjoy the privileges that come with the responsibility. Enjoy all of that stuff that comes with knowing that not only I can back up everything that I've done, and I do it because I choose to, because my heart has led to me to do, because spirit gave me a nudge and said go do that, and so I listened. But in that regard, yeah, black women have held so much, and a lot of it has just been done because it's sometimes it's easy.
What do you mean
Sometimes it's
easy?
easy because we see it, and we
Mm.
have an kind of calling to do what needs to be done that we see. It's almost like you can't just you gonna walk by that, you ain't see that kind of thing. Your mama might say, you ain't just see
So
that.
yeah, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit, because from my perspective, my Y chromosomes and all this maleness energy and all that, for me, I see that as one of the ways that black women get exploited. Let me explain this story. Uh, Bill Cosby used to tell this joke about one Saturday morning. He wanted to sleep in, but his wife sent him downstairs to make breakfast for the kids. He gets down there and they're like, "Can we have chocolate cake?" And he's like, "Well, wait a minute. There are eggs in chocolate cakes. There's milk in chocolate cake. There's flour like pancakes in chocolate cake. Let's have chocolate cake." So he fixes chocolate cake, and the kids are, "That is great." He gives the chocolate cake, and his wife comes down and she goes ballistic because kids should be eating chocolate cake for breakfast, blah, 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 blah. Go upstairs. I got to clean all this stuff up there. And he never had to make breakfast again. It was the fact that somebody had to be the grown up, and all I have to do is be like, not it. And I've seen especially when it comes to children. A lot of Black women are in that space. Nobody else is going to take care of it, so I will give my kids the life that they deserve with both of us. But since you ain't doing your part, I have to. Who else is going to do it? How do you balance? And I've seen you balance those have tos with purpose, with calling and decision. But how would you advise my goddaughters when they're in that space where they are forced to be the grown up? Nobody, and not even on some bull. Sometimes the other person you're with does not have the resources to be the a partner, a true partner. So how have you learned to navigate in those spaces?
Okay. So, I've loved this question, and it's making me take a nice deep breath in before I engage, right? What I would say is that oftentimes we find these things inside of ourselves, how to do, how to be, how to give, how to mold, how to shape. And they have come for some people have like networks of people who come in. Some people have, they got a lot of teachings from their parents or their aunties, or they get, you never know what someone has. But let's just say there's nobody but you. So if there's no one but you, this is when you have to recognize that you were more than you thought you were.
Mm.
When you begin to recognize that you were more than you ever believed that you could be, and that this may be a moment in which you're being asked to grow and expand. I tried it two ways. I tried it on my own. I tried it by doing everything I could think of. And then I had to move into a place that I found was actually easier, which is one in which I began to move towards surrender, my higher self, this greater. What is there? There's something greater than me that's work, and it is me. I am that, and that is me, right? So how do I allow that to come forward? And I will tell you, I found much more ease when I surrendered to that energy, that flow, than opposed to, because oftentimes we as Black women, you will hear so many people telling you what to do, how to do it, what you should do. You should be ashamed. You shouldn't have did this. You shouldn't have did that. And you will be beating yourself up for people who are not there with one hand, one finger, $1, one piece of bread, or a cup of milk towards the process, an egg, or a cup of sugar. It's just you. So ultimately, you have to make decisions you can live with. And this is where self-compassion, self-love, self-forgiveness, self-care become mandated. And I love self-care can be a trip, or, going and getting a massage or getting your nails done. That can be self-care. But for me, self-care is, did I get some sleep? Self-care is, did I make sure I ate? Because women will feed the children and not feed themselves.
Say it again. No, I'm sorry, you got to say that again.
Black women, mamas, we will feed the babies and not feed ourselves. We will take care of them.
Sometimes feed him too.
Yeah. We will feed
Because
everyone.
if we're going to talk about it, that's part of the experience.
Let's talk about it all. And what happens in this part, there becomes a gauge inside your own heart that lets you know if you've gone too far in your giving. You have to begin trusting that part in yourself that says, I did too much there. And that becomes how you start learning. And you might cross the line. Sometimes you might fall too short. Like, I could have did a little bit more there. That's the growing. That's how you refine it. That's how you get that wisdom that comes in, where they say, how did you know? Baby, you do a dance until after a while you start hitting that mark every time. Where you allow your hand to be guided to hit that mark where it's supposed to be, right? But that inner self trust and leaning on you, I found myself singing songs my grandma would sing. I was singing. I'm like, where are these songs coming up? Why am I singing this song? Where is this? Look, I grew up in the South. And oh, you already know the kind of songs that was showing up in my mouth. I'm like, I haven't sang this.
I don't even like this song. I hated this song when I heard them sing
I didn't even
it.
understand what they was talking about. Some leaning. What they talking about leaning?
I don't want to lean on nobody. I want to stand on my own. Safe and secure. I'm safe and secure on my own. Until you realize you ain't. Amens, amens, amens.
A man, a woman, because a sister, this whole system is interconnected, and oftentimes I found that because we can doesn't mean we should,
Mm.
right? Because we can doesn't mean we should. So sometimes you have to let them fall. You have to let them go. I have walked away from people I love. That thing right there still hurts my heart because my heart still love, but it don't mean that my spirit still say no.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's a part of this thing. You're in this thing. It's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna be a life though, and I would warrant that it's better to have some good stories. I have my role models up on the wall, so at least
Mhm.
on one side I have me on one side. Someone told me I needed to put me on the wall. I have a picture of me in this picture.
Absolutely.
Over to the side I got Harriet Tubman right here. I have my art pictures of these beings. I just have my people. And when I get worried, I look up at them. I'm like, look, if she could walk it out, I know I can.
And it's really good that you found your anchor point. Not that you, it's kind of like a ship. It's like you are able to manage the waves on your own, but it's good to have an anchor or a place that holds you, even if it's for a little while, so you can get your bearings sometimes. Um, I don't know if people saw the last show, you said something that was your last appearance that I've been quoting you. I think I probably owe you money at this point or something. I've been quoting it so much. It was simple, but so incredibly profound. You said, boundaries have to be sacred. And it was just like, I mean, oh, wow. Because when you move from boundaries being these kind of physical or social things and recognize that your physical and social boundaries are just extensions of the metaphysical boundaries that you're trying to use to protect your spirit, it now doesn't just mean those sacred boundaries in your spiritual place, but recognizing the connectivity among them all. So, I'm
Mm.
like I said, so I've been telling people what you said. I listened. I was like, let me tell y'all what she said. Y'all need to go check her out and download her music. Her Cash App is I had it at the time. I don't have it written down. I should remember that. But
Oh, no, but brother, like that's one of the things that we have. I feel like so much of the disease that we dealt with has come from overgiving, from doing way,
oh,
way,
okay.
way,
So this
way.
is I gotta apologize. So this is that phrase for this show. So one of the problems we have is overgiving because the last one was about sacredness of boundaries, and now you dropping some more fire with okay, all right.
No, I love us. I love the way black women love, right? We love. And here's the other part too. We also can become when we are jaded, when we are done. There ain't nothing done like a black woman does. Like that done, it's next level done. Like it's dry. Like you ain't getting nothing out of that thing right there. So that may be too far on the other side, right? So we got these two ends, and
Mhm.
somewhere we have to find our way back to. We use this word in the beginning, homeostasis. Some people you need to give them a little bit more. Some people you need to hold. I'm not allowed.
Mhm.
This is as far as I go over here. Because you go a little far, you're like, I didn't like that, and you have to bring yourself back. But yes, we have a lot of need to center ourselves in these stories. In our mothering, where are you? In our daughtering, where are you? In our families, where we got to do this for our ancestors. No, I got to do this for me. Kind of energy.
Use the ancestors to support you the same way that we support the next generation. But I don't want my kids to live through my life because I did that already.
Yeah. Yes.
So is that what
Yes.
you're talking about? Like,
Yes. Well,
don't live in the past.
there's a need for the world to receive our gifts, right? And if we are steadily trying to measure the qualification based on what someone else says and what they believe, and what mama said or what we have always done, um, we have to have a courage to stand, right? And that's where our boundaries become sacred. We talked about that in the body, in the cells, we're all over it, physiological. But the ability to be self-sustaining.
Right.
There are all of these entities on the earth, be they the trees, so they know how to do what they do. They can create, they take life, they transform it. We do this, so I think about, as Black women, our boundaries, our health, our joy. We have to be responsible for our joy. I think we know how to have a good time when we give ourselves a good time.
Right.
I think that relationships are vital to Black women's survival as well, though. Our thriving, having
Mm-hmm.
healthy relationships with other Black women, other women, but definitely other Black women. It's very important. Um, and with Black women who think differently, as well as complementary, right? You have to have some folk, and they may change. That's the other thing I would love for your, if I were talking to your daughters, I talking to your goddaughters like I'm talking to my daughter. Your friends may change, and that may be, you're gonna feel what you feel about it, but it may be, it is what it is. Um, but you still need friends. You will need people to get through this thing. I tell people one of my favorite songs right now has been "I Get By with a Little Help from My Friends."
Oh, I don't know this song.
You don't remember that? I don't even remember who sings it, but it's a little refrain, a little old like 70s, 60s, 70s song. I get by with a little help from my friends. I
No.
get by with a little help from my friends. We're gonna find it, and I'm gonna make sure that
I'm
I
with it. You don't threaten me with a good time having you sing to me. You crazy. I keep that shit going right now. Keep playing with me.
uh look, I'm gonna have you come out. I'm singing this Thursday.
You ain't said nothing but a thing. Make sure before we get off, we plug it so everybody know what to do. Yes, I
Ah,
mean, we
sure,
we sell
sure.
stuff here.
Good time to be had.
So when we talk about boundaries, one of the things that makes a boundary a real thing is its enforceability. And one of the things that you talked about was this training, and I'll say training. I know that wasn't your word, but this training that Black women go through to be exploited, to be, hey, your job is to serve everyone, make sure everybody is taken care of. And then if there's something left over, like literally, I remember watching my mom at the end just sit down and eat leftovers because she was so tired. But at a certain point, that boundary has to be enforced. That enforcement may look like quitting. That quitting may look like terminating relationships that have been trained that as a Black woman you are defined by. Most of them have to do with somebody with a Y chromosomes choice. It is what it is. How do you know that, one, that the boundary that you have set, one, makes sense in the first place and makes sense for who you are now? Because sometimes we set boundaries, we grow, and it's like, oh wait, boundaries like that shirt that's a little too tight before, it's like, okay, I need to loosen this boundary up a little bit. But that's a choice, that's a decision, and it comes with consequences. And then when you have a boundary and somebody presses the boundary, it is sacred. So do you excommunicate them or do you forgive them? Do you throw water on them or do you bury them? I mean, we got a whole lot of options.
It all depends on what the mood needs. Some people require a different kind of handling, right? Some people require, this is what this is. And that may mean you might not talk to them for a little while. For me, some people are cut and done. Some people are cut and doners. That's not me. And my heart doesn't work like that. If you in there, you in there. Don't mean that I'm gonna access that point though. You might be in timeout in my heart, right? Um, However, the enforcing the when people crossing, first of all, it's about you become your own litmus test. What they say, you like it, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to allow people their process, and I've had to take my own process. You have someone who comes with care to try to support you, and you're like, no, 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 but I love him, or no, 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 I like doing this, or no, 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 it's fine, I got this, and so they let you, and then then at some point you may have the opportunity to do one of the most empowering acts of self care, I believe, which is self reflection,
Mm-hmm.
taking a moment to look back over, and then checking in with your body, because your body will tell you the truth. I'm tired. This hurt. This, and you can get. But I'm supposed to. Your body, after a certain point, sometimes you have to get sick. Sometimes you have to feel. Sometimes you get taken advantage of. Like, absolutely. So you know it. Like, you know it. Then it's like there's no better teacher than experience.
So
To prevent that.
I'm sorry.
No, to prevent that, I would. This is why having people with eyes that you trust. This is your people with eyes that you trust. It can be your therapist, it can be your dad, it can be your mom, it can be your auntie, it can be a good girlfriend. It could be that mentor, that teacher who you stayed in touch with for some time. Um, but to have someone, and this is why having a therapist, I think everybody should have a therapist, someone who you can just, can I run this by you? They can't tell you what to do, but they can at least give you their eyes on the situation to counteract those maybe conditionings you weren't aware you had. Your conditionings will cause you to cross over your boundary, right? I'm supposed to do it. Keep you from.
I'm sorry. Could you explain what you mean by that? Because I think it sounds really important for where you're going, but I want to make sure we understand that.
Yeah. So your conditionings, meaning you may have agreements based on your upbringing. You may have beliefs that you think society has told you or that you've agreed to. I'm supposed to do this thing. So even though you say, I'm not going to ever do that again, and then the moment shows up and you find your conditioning overriding this new program that you just tried to put in place, the new program is, I won't do it. Your conditioning is like, yeah, we override that, we trump that.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while sometimes before you get out in front of those conditioning. So that you can, and so that's where the compassion and the forgiveness, but when you aren't sturdy in your boundaries, right? When they still got a gate and people come on through, or they people can just flow through. But eventually, sometimes it might even show up as yelling and showing out, right? An overreaction. Why you all like that? Well, that it had to come out that way so I can. That was me pulling up my power to make something stick and stay. I told you nicely, like I've told my young ones. I'm like, children, do you like it when I talk to you like this? Then you might want to respond while I'm talking to you like this, because the energy is going to increase the longer it takes you to give me a response that is an agreement or an acknowledgement of the words that are coming out of my mouth. So that's how we come. Like, I think this process of honoring ourselves, it's something that I think we are taking a more proactive approach to instill this in all of us. Honoring ourselves, even knowing, because I think for women, we've identified what works, so we're having to create a new relationship with rest and sharing responsibilities and not having it be perfect. That's something that we have. We don't have to be perfect. Black women, you don't have to be perfect. Black women, you do not have to be perfect. You are born divine and worthy. If you did nothing else but just get here and leave, you were born worthy. You do not have to be perfect. Can you strive towards excellence? I applaud that all day, every day, of striving towards excellence. But this idea of perfection, sometimes that, will have us wearing ourselves out and crossing boundaries, or crossing other people's boundaries. Sometimes Black women can be boundary crossers on other people.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that So it was profound that you made the distinction between um, perfection and excellence. That perfection is a state that does not actually exist, and if somehow you achieve it, it's momentary. You get 100% of the money, but as soon as somebody gets one penny, you no longer have 100% anymore. And so, what I have seen, oh, I'm sorry, let me finish with the difference between excellence. Excellence is a relative marker. Your level of excellence is your level of excellence, notwithstanding what anyone else's level looks like. One of the things that I have seen is that this desire toward excellence and being held to the standard of perfection, the desire toward excellence being exploited, being held to the standard of perfection, is one of the ways that Black women continue to be exploited and manipulated. It becomes this idea that your worthiness is only exists at the level of perfection. If you can never achieve that, then you are worthy. You are worth anything that you get. How many times have Black women heard, "You should just be happy with what you have. You are so uppity. You trying to do the most. You do extra. Blah blah blah." How do you respond to that kind of concept? Because these are things that they will hear.
Again, there's this idea of not letting other people pay rent in your mind, but or take up occupancy in your mind. They don't pay rent there. However, that's not so easy when, let's say, it's your best friend, let's say it's your boss, or let's say, many times we meet that particular energy in unexpected places, y tu puse, like you too. And so I would, for myself, when I will say that it still brings a little bit of sadness to me, like, oh, there's a cloud in my sky. It was a beautiful sky, and you just came across it with I don't, but it's become a scenario where those kinds of interactions are less frequent because I have shifted my approach, and I state I have become I inoculate myself and my self worth game. When they talk about affirmations and mantras, that's self inoculation. That's you bigging you up. That's you talking over your, giving praises to yourself, giving honor to yourself. I listen to affirming energy or messages regularly. I want to be in these places where I will be seen, and I am validated and definitely loved. So when I come into places and spaces where you're not recognizing me, then I know that's not the space I'm supposed to be in. And that's where, if you've inoculated yourself, you begin to realize, like, sometimes you can even see yourself different in that relationship. Let's say it's a job and you're fine with it, and after a while you start saying, I'm not well. You realize, like, or your people might say to you, something's changed. Are you okay? You're like, what you mean? Well, and they might give you some things again to give you an opportunity to reflect. But yeah, there ain't no joke out there. And sometimes I ain't gonna tell no lies. You might need to cuss somebody out. Like, sometimes people do need to just be cussed out. When they come at you the wrong way, you can do it classy, or you can do it Baltimore.
If you need some help cussing anybody out, I give private lessons and stuff like that. Y'all know how difficult it is for me not to curse on the show. Donnie be finding me and stuff. It's crazy, but so I'm offering myself to the cause. I'm going to offer myself to you because you need somebody cussed out, or you need to develop your cussing out skills. Special Black Woman Raid is absolutely free. I will teach you how to make this work, baby. Sorry, I wanted to throw in a plug for that.
It's so good though, because a lot of us, especially if you were a good girl, if you were someone who wanted to be what they call good, because good meant a lot of things that did not include standing up for oneself. If someone looked at
excluded it.
Good, being good. I don't like the word
excluded being powerful out of the definition of being good. Powerful was not included anywhere in the definition of good. So in order to be good, you have to give up the idea of being powerful.
Whew, that right there. That right there. And if you claiming your power, good ain't got nothing to do with that right there. Nice either. Good and nice. You can be kind. But I'd rather be clear.
Yes.
I'd rather be clear. I'd rather make sure, are we understanding one another? You know, and it gets interesting, especially when you start getting into intimate spaces, right? Intimate spaces, you start recognizing power dynamics. And a lot of times I feel that in transactional relations or transactional relationships and communication, if you're used to someone talking down to you, at some point you're going to have someone that you're talking down to.
Learned behavior.
You're going to have someone. And so, especially, you know, we're talking about doing better, being better. We got to, it starts with ourselves. It starts with us. And stopping that flow of that energy from coming at us, and being clear about what we're going to allow to come out of ourselves, you know, being accountable to that.
I'm sitting here looking at all the notes I took. I'm trying to where do I go back to? One of the things you talked about was, and I wanted to dig in a little bit more. In many cases, Black women are defined by their relationships and how they care for other people. And a lot of that advice comes from women who have really believed themselves to help you. We're trying to show you how to deal with the real world. The same kind of people that say things like, you got to toughen your kids up because the world won't be nice to them. So you want me to pre-abuse them. And don't get it twisted. That was my belief, because the life was a hazing opportunity that you just had to survive. I didn't realize that it could be beautiful. And luckily for me, my ex-wife got to my kids before I got it too far into their heads, and they got a good balance. But there are a lot of kids that don't have that offset that mine did, and have some parents that aren't willing to learn. Because at first I was like, no, this is the way it is. But once she was able to explain it to me, I was like, oh, that it didn't make me feel good when I got hit. And I was always scared. Wait, maybe I shouldn't. A lot of people don't have that in their lives. And so a lot of these Black girls and Black women are getting advice from people who have not healed themselves, who are still caught into the training and are living that life. And so you may feel something in you that says, this ain't right. I know it's the Matrix. I know this thing ain't real. But everybody around you is chewing and talking about how great it is. How do you break out of that?
You just do. You just do. At a certain point, when you begin, I don't know if it means you're going to have to, if you're staying with the person, you're going to have to move. You know what I mean? I'm not even being funny. You may have to begin to get really quiet around people. Like if you can't move physically, you may have to move energetically. Why you always quiet? You ain't got nothing to say. Because then you start hearing their stuff come up. You think you better than us? I've heard this. I've lived with that. And it's not that I'm better. No, I'm just choosing to do it different. I'm choosing to do it different. Do you want to have a conversation? And most people don't want to have a conversation because they like their belief system. So leave them with them. And if you can have conversations, this is where therapy helps again, right? This is when you start having therapy. And like you said, I'm so grateful you had your ex-wife as an example. She asked you some questions that gave you an opportunity to reflect. I find that if it's a relationship that you need to hold, I would say it's important to try to have these conversations before it's needed. Like if the thing has happened, now let's reflect on what just happened. Let's reflect on this play that just went down. Like let's run this. This is what happened on the field. Let's look and see what we've done and what can be done. And a lot of times, if you have someone who grew up in that kind of an environment and they're still stuck in this is how I was raised, this is what it is, I don't understand, that won't work. Like you hear all of their twisted thinking, all of their all or nothing thinking, all of their distortions are coming out. This is where you know that you're not going to win it all in one night. They didn't become this person or one conversation. So you begin trying, maybe picking one of those distorted thoughts that you've heard the most. If they said, oh, if they kept saying over and over again, it'll never work, it'll never work, it'll never work. Maybe you can feed them with, like, finding little articles and little papers and showing how gentle parenting, as they like to call it, it's not gentle parenting. It's basically treating children like whole beings.
But they're
Treating
not. They live in my house. They don't have nothing they have. They don't got nothing. They can't even do nothing. They can't vote. They ain't got a job. You don't pay no bills in here.
And all you hear is, in that regard, the same rhetoric that was talked to them about. Their value was only based on what they could do, as opposed to simply being born. We are valuable. And it's like they were never treated as valuable, right? So when you have people who've never been treated as valuable, the only thing that they give value to is, what can you do and how can you do it? And they have this story going on there. And again, this is when you have to do that reflecting of doing all that you can, right? And eventually making decisions about what's going to be your next move. I'm not telling Adam, doing it by yourself ain't easy, right? So these kind of conversations are powerful to have before you engage in having young people, right? But, sometimes you don't learn these things until after. Some of the stuff shows up then, because then they get the pressure of their family coming and saying, what are you doing, and what is she doing, and this isn't right, and y'all need to do, and what you need to do. They start telling you what you need to do, as opposed to making suggestions, or they start even undermining you and doing stuff behind your back. They'll try to speak. I know your parents say you can't have this, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway, kind of thing. That's not safe. That is actually it's beyond abuse. It's like, well, how do we teach boundaries when you have people who are crossing them, right? Everyone gets a yes and a no. You talk about boundaries being sacred. Yes and no are some sacred words. If I say yes, you got it. If I say no, even if I said yes and I change it to no, people don't like that.
Right.
But, it means that you have to operate in self-control. And that right there is something that a lot of folks haven't much practice in.
So let's talk about that a little bit. One of the things that I often hear, actually, I got called on it. A friend of mine told me recently she was going through a breakup, and I was like, look, dude's not good for you. We knew this. And she was like, it was a little dig, and I'm still feeling the kind of way about something. I told y'all, people, y'all are part of my therapy. So she was like, I'm not like you. I can't just turn my heart on and off. So one, that hurt. But two, I'm not suggesting that you turn your heart on and off. I'm making a distinction. I know you and I have talked about this before, the distinction between how you feel and what you do. And sometimes in the interest of those boundaries, holding that boundary sacred, you have to sacrifice a behavior and deal with for you to enforce that boundary, because it's not even about them crossing it. It's about you. And again, how do you balance then sometimes these overwhelming feelings? Like if I'm like, you are everything I've ever dreamed of, and a woman, a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And I have now created this story in my head that my life will not be complete without you. You are now part of my identity. You are the ultimate value in my space. And so without you, I am nothing. How do we, one, either keep from getting down that rabbit hole? Because I won't even say I think, but my therapist has said that is toxic thinking. So how do we keep from going down that rabbit hole? Or if we find ourselves or somebody we're with who are starting to say those kind of things like, you need to spend all your time with me, or I miss you so much, why are you leaving me? And I'm sorry, I'm still working through some stuff, but just go ahead and answer the question. I realized I stopped asking a question a while ago, and I should send you my insurance card because you really going through some of my therapist shit right now.
We can make sure we get it in. No, I tell you, this is why for myself, I do a lot around my spiritual practices, right? Um, and I have developed a really strong sense of self trust. I know that I am someone who maybe you're someone who has to sleep on the feeling, like it feels good here, but when you come back down, does it still feel good? Did you need to allow yourself to go through the motion? I'm upset. You're happy, so it feels good, but on the next day it doesn't. You know, do you give yourself that space to feel that feeling? Do you trust? Are you someone who gets gut nudges? Do you trust that gut nudge? Are you someone who has to talk it out? And when you talk it out and you start hearing the words coming out of your own mouth and they don't sound right to you, do you trust? Are you someone who you get an impulse, like your whole body says yes, or your whole body says no, get out the door, go run, get your stuff, get out the door, go. If you don't, you have to learn yourself. This is all about you. Like it really is. We are the director, we are the writer, we are the main actor, we are the all in our lives. And if we can't mature to the place of self-owning, right? Self-loving, self-owning. No perfection. It's a process. Like you might get a little. It may be inches and inches for you. Some people ain't got no problem self-owning. Some people born in this world like I got me, and I applaud those people. But if you're like me, and you are someone who loves hard, like I love, but I've loved people I've loved. One of my tenets is if I complain too long, if I'm tired of hearing the words coming out of my mouth, I'm now responsible. At this point, you gonna stay, you gonna go. That at a certain point it becomes you gonna stay, you gonna go. And then I like to reflect and see, like, how was my life since I've gone? Have things been better? Like, have I grown? Have I accomplished? Like, sometimes, especially women, we have this thing that we don't think we're complete without our person.
Yeah.
That has been some of the most toxic self-talk or conditioning that keeps us from really acquiring and accessing our full power. To me, like I'm at this place now where absolutely I would love to, I would love, but I also value my own company. That took a while, but I value my company. I value the things I want. I value, what do I want to eat? So tonight we have sushi and salad. I have to ask anybody. The kids were down. They were like sushi and salad. Word, they were happy with it. But learning how to walk by yourself, that's probably one of the most important things that any of us could ever learn is how to. I like to show it to my daughter at times in the book, Go the Places You'll Go. There's a part in there where he talks about alone is something you'll be a lot. There's one little line in there. And I'm like, if you can do that, you will be okay. And you can find your balance with your partnerships and anyone. I don't personalize when people have to go either. I've learned not to personalize when people got to leave my space. I used to take it highly personal when people had to go. Like when they didn't want to be my friend anymore. Why wouldn't you want to be I'm amazing. Be my friend. You're supposed to stay me and you will never part, like me and you, right? But now you got to go. And I realized, well, then they got to go. You keep going. And another thing that helped me, just because I stopped making new love with someone doesn't mean that the old love never existed.
Amen.
I can honor that was, even if I'm not doing anything new with you. And that way I don't have to make you a villain. I'm not a villain, you're not a villain. We just ain't feeling each other no more. That. And that helps. So, yeah, I think for most women, if you find yourself with someone who is starting to love bomb you, Unless that's your language, unless that's your thing, unless y'all are both doing it and you make everybody sick, both of you just make us all sick with all your little burpy, sugary, sweetie thing. Do you, if that's both of you together, but I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. It's not my life. As long as, if it's working for you in a way, because I don't know what is it? There's some animal that they become, I can't remember some of these animals in nature, like they become one. I can't remember what, if there was some thing in the ocean that when they mate, the body becomes fused together. Like that's not my,
Oh, I have heard of something like that.
that's not my thing, but if that's what you do.
No, thank you. I'm with the seahorses where everybody just skeet out their gametes into the water and run away.
Look. You like the just try to get to your spawning ground. Just trying to get to your spawn.
Let me just get
So,
there real quick.
but I think go ahead.
I'm sorry. One of the things that I have heard consistently when you talk about the boundaries being sacred, and for me, it sounded like the place where you start with the most significant or the most important boundary sounds like the first one was with yourself. Like, I'm not going to allow this to happen to me. I don't care what you do. Because the reality is for me that most people are boundary steppers. Like that's their role in our lives, is to test our boundaries, to push our us to the limits. And it's our job to be like, nah, dude, I'm good. So I'm sorry. Is that accurate? Is it the first boundary we should focus on ours, because we can at least control our behavior?
I think that there is a lot to be said for focusing on your boundaries, and if you have relationship with others, honoring theirs. That's a practice too. So if you have young people, a lot of people like, because my children still like to bust in my door, and so I've given them notice. My room. You might come in and see me butt naked. You don't want to see your mama butt naked. You might want to knock on the door. I'm just telling you, because you come up in my room. If the door is open, free game. Door's not. So, but I'm using that to say, the boundaries with the people you're in relationship with, everything's up for negotiation and renegotiation. Everything is up for conversation and a revisited conversation. When we allow, yes.
But it sounds like you're still talking about what you do in your boundary. Because I think in the many of the conversations, at least that I've had, when I've talked to Black women, especially about their boundaries, it's like, why do they keep pushing my boundaries? And I'm like, because he wants to hit. Like, there's an answer to that. Well, if you don't want to be with me, why would you? Because he wants to hit. Like, this is the answer. But what it seems like is that they get frustrated because the guy isn't either A, following the schedule, or a family member isn't following the schedule, or they're trying to cross the boundary. And instead of saying like, I am going to enforce these boundaries, I don't feel like it, I don't want to, but I'm going to enforce it. It is, what can I do to keep you from pushing through my boundary? And that kind of focus on keeping somebody from pushing through your boundaries is outside the scope of your control and brings us back into that perfection service thing.
You can't control the actions of another being. The only one you can control is you. So at that point, you begin to say, why am I answering your calls? Well, I told you this. You can literally you can even block individual numbers. I used to have people's numbers on my phone that literally would say, do not answer, blah, 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 their name, whatever. I wouldn't answer. The phone would ring, and I would know who it was. But you have to, this is the self-value, right? And that worth energy. You got to know you're worth it. And sometimes some people, I think some women like the game. Some women like the energy of he keeps trying to, that might do something for their self-esteem.
But it goes to, I know we ain't got a whole lot of time left, but it's my show, so we're going to go as long as I want to today. But let's talk about the idea that choice is the value. And a lot of times I hear people say Black women need to know their worth, need to know their value. I struggle with that because I don't believe value is a real thing. Value is not a thing. It is the value of $5 to you versus $5 to me won't be the same. $200,000 to you and to me won't be the same. The value of being 6 foot tall, the value of being 5'8" and a half, by the way, that half is important. Those are different values.
Right.
But I think what ends up happening with especially with Black women, is that values are set externally. Your hair doesn't look right. Your lips, your eyes, your size, your skin color, your smile, your language, all of these things, all of the things that shape value are structured externally, and we look for those. We're like emotional diabetics. We can't figure out, we can't create our own value. We have to keep getting it externally. And so if that's, how do you determine your value? Everybody say you should know your value. How you know? I got a car and I got to look up Carfax to figure out how much it's worth. They ain't no woman facts. They ain't no Black woman facts. How put your social security number, birthday in it, it'll tell you how much you're worth. No. And then you have a dude who's like, girl, you are everything to me. You have nobody's ever supported me like that. And then it's like, but you know what? I want to be with my ex right now. But I was like, what? Like, it's all of these things. And again, it's so funny. I get more upset and confused about this talking to y'all. Y'all like, no, that's true. That's the way it happened. I'm like, I don't do it. What y'all talking about? It's crazy.
It's
I'm
real.
all worked up and hot. I'm about to take this off. It's hot in here now.
Super real though, and what you got to understand is even in that. So this is what I call the emotional heavy lifting, right? As a woman, you have to be able to hold your weight, especially if you're talking about what you have decided your value is. Now, if your value is again based on an external factor, and when I talk about your value, I'm simply saying, the things that you have decided are important to you. I have, as you said,
Sorry,
a
wait a minute.
different.
Are you suggesting that Black women can choose what's important to them and they don't have to do all the stuff that the church and the school and the job and the... No, I think you're making this up now.
And so look, I wear afro because I like it. My daughter loves it. There are people who probably look at me crazy because I'm not weaved out. I am not weaved out, and I love it. And now, would I be weaved out if I wanted to? I sure would. I can because I can, right? Um, there's a lot that comes from self efficacy, right? Um, where I have decided the things that I am proud of, the things that I think are important. Some women will tell you, I don't think that they're not trying to cook at all. They're not going to cook, right? And that doesn't shift their feeling of worth. In fact, that's a valuation for them on a man's value to them. Can he cook? Or can he take me out to eat? Because I'm not cooking. But I'm on the other side of that. I love to cook. I love to cook. In fact, I'm gonna make you a meal, and then I'm still gonna tell you I still want you to take me out to eat, or can you come cook for me? Because that's my thing. That's my thing. You have to know, and this is what goes into that whole idea of self satisfaction. Do you know what satisfies you? Have you explored enough to even find out what satisfies you? Do you know the things that bring you absolute bliss? For me, one of those is dancing, house music. Put me in the middle of a room and let me spin around in circles till I can't dance. I'm into walking home sore the next day. Bliss, bliss. Put me in front of a beach and let me just bake and roll me over like in the sun till I go home and all I want to do is bliss. But you got to know those things that give you self satisfaction. Are you someone who knows what makes you happy? And in this regard, these become your categories around, to me, how you measure worth. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your energy? If you believe that you desire to have somebody for something because you can't even be with yourself, then it becomes a conversation around, at some point, you will be faced with the dilemma of, have I chosen these people, places, circumstances, and things because I can't choose my own self? Like what happens
Oh,
there?
sorry, real quick. For many of you all who are asking yourself that question, the answer is yes. Just I don't want to. I don't just because I don't want to be obtuse here. It's like no, you ask yourself that question. Actually, one of the triggers for you should be the fact that you asked yourself that question. If you got to ask yourself, is this working? It's probably not. I'm just gonna suggest it.
Probably not. And then here's the thing, you don't even got to be mad at yourself because this is the world we're living in. This conditioned world we're living in has made it this way, right? The people who started doing this thing, what we know about degrees being off, if something is off, as you get further and further from it, it begins to become more and more off. So the distortion has only gotten greater. And
Mm-hmm.
so don't you, we're all in this thing together. I'm not special. Well, I am special.
Yeah,
William's not
don't
special.
do
He's
that.
special.
Don't
We're
do that.
pretty magnificent people. He and I, we're magnificent people, and you are too.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets. That's where it hits you when you accept that I'm magnificent. Yes, you're magnificent. You are all the things. You are graceful. I love my clumsiness. When I talk about being graceful, and people are like, oh, you have so much grace. I'm like, you know how clumsy I am. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So it's a journey towards your worth. But yes, it is worth it. And if you get, the sooner you get it, sometimes I'm like, I wish I had picked up on my worth a long time. But I think I did. I think I would have moments of it where I thought I was worthy, and then I would lose sight of it for time, and then I would find it again. So now I'm just not trying to let that bad boy go. I'm not losing sight of my own value and worth.
And it's one of those things like we get ourselves confused and caught up in the whole social network. You know what? I realize we're gonna be on here for like the next couple hours. We're gonna wrap this up soon. I swear. I swear we are.
And I just looked at the time too.
Yeah, but we get so caught up in the social aspects of community and society. I mean, it's social, and we start substituting our identity for the rules of society because for me, I believe it anchors back into who we've always been. We have always been tribal. We have always been. That's how we survive. Humans can't survive on their own. Like we in the wild by yourself, you're done. I mean, Tom Hanks had a movie and a volleyball, and he barely survived. Um, in real life, we can't, and that is what gets exploited. This idea that you don't want to be by yourself. I mean, look at how the Republican Party, just as they are the high watermark for me of cultish and exploitive behavior at this point, especially under Donald Trump. But it is that it is the worst thing that can happen is that the tribe turns on you. You get a mean tweet. And because your identity has been so co-opted by being part of this thing, whether it is your sorority, whether it is having a man, my husband, like whatever it is, those things that define you also mean they make your life worth living, but it also puts you in a position of vulnerability to people who would exploit those things. And
Yes.
what I have seen happen is that you lead with love, it hurts, and then you shut down. But love was what made the life worth living. Love is like the door in a house. You could, if somebody's going to break in, it's either going to be through a door or window. No, how many times do you hear somebody they broken through my wall? Like, no, it's the window or the door. But if you
Right.
take away the windows and the doors, now you have a cell. So it is the windows and the doors that make it worth it. But there are bad people who are going to break your windows and doors. You could put the bars and boards on the outside, but now you're trapped. And so it is balancing, to me at least, it is balancing those things, those competing. I want to be safe and I don't want somebody just walking in my house all the damn time. But at the same time, I don't want to live in a box with a padlock on it. So
So if I don't want to live in a box with a padlock on it, and I want to be able to open up my doors and let my windows and let fresh air in and take in nature and witness and see, I begin to operate. I operate with these ideals around frequency, and that I'm not gonna go because that's a whole nother thing.
yeah,
But
you not slick. I see what you were doing by bringing it up. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. But you know
well,
what that means again, though. You know what that means again.
what
You
does
got to
that
come
mean?
back.
We talk. Yeah, I'll come back. You already know. I love our talk. Especially because we can get into. I think the world needs to hear us have a metaphysical conversation.
They
I
really
think
do.
that they need to hear us go there. But yes, I think that we have to open our doors. We have to open our windows. We have to know that we are in control of our doors and our windows. We have to get to know our environment. You have to be able to read those signs early warning signs. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that as soon as they do one thing, but maybe after they do two,
Well, depending on it's a matrix. See, that's the thing. It's complicated. Is you do one out of column A, and then you can get up to 5 out of column D. But if you do 2 out of column A, we're done. The hell with that. I can't even do. You see, but you also have to understand how complicated you are. We are complicated beings that we try to reduce it down to simplicity. Oh, me loving you ain't gonna be enough necessarily because I'm wily. I'm slick in here. Can't just be normal. And so with that, see, we about to start a whole new conversation. You ain't slick. You ain't slick at all. You ain't slick at all.
It's you. I see how you blow with Honey Blue.
Oh, so you just gonna call me out on blaming Black women for my mistakes? Okay, he said hey, why don't you let me relax in my misogynoir?
No.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful for you coming and joining me again today, and I am looking forward to the next time. I'm gonna be in a cooler location.
You're gonna come see me on Thursday night at next phase.
Oh,
next phase. It's gonna be they have Acoustic Soul, and I'm gonna be one of the artists there. So I'll be doing a set there, hanging out with the brothers Mark and who's out there, Mark and Chuck and Kevin Jackson. All of them will be there. So it'll be great.
What time are you going on?
I don't know what time I'm going on. I think if it kicks off at 8 o'clock.
Okay, it kicks off at 8. So I'm teaching, and look at me making plans right now. So I'm teaching until about 7, to about 8:30. They might have take home work. I'm gonna work this out. So it's Thursday. But, hey, you know what? Do me a favor, text me, send me the link for it and stuff like that, and I'll add an image on BlackUSA.news, and also make sure that it's in if there's a link, I'll make sure that it's in this.
Very good. I'll do that.
Absolutely. Shoot, we know we gotta sell it. We gotta support those that support us. Absolutely.
Yes. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again so much, and I will see you Thursday.
Beautiful. It was wonderful as usual, and I hope that you stay well. Don't get it. Well, get in as much trouble as you can handle. That's what I was gonna say.
Amen. All the time.
Somebody got to do it. It might as well be you.
Amen. All right, babe. I'll talk to you later.
All right, now. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Oh, dude. I know dope people. I tell y'all that all the time. Now, y'all already know she was dope because she was here before, but y'all don't. We ain't even scratch the tip of the dopeness. Iceberg. I almost forgot what it was that sunk the Titanic, and I was like a rhombus. It was like that wasn't it, but those are my inside thoughts. So, we had a wonderful time. I love a conversation with her, and I can't wait. Yo, she might be the 2-time in the month of Black women guest. Maybe. All right. I'm so way over time. I'm so going to get a memo. God, I'm going to get a memo. I'll see you, and we'll be black tomorrow.